Welcome back to episode 14 of Heart-Led Hustle, where I help you to create a life and a business that is totally heart-led and still, despite what you may think, leads to expansion, sustainability, profit, scalability, and most importantly, fulfillment. In today's episode, we are going to be breaking down one of the coolest parts of the brain that is such a game changer when it comes to manifestation and the way that you grow and scale your business, and ultimately like your sense of self-confidence, right? And so today I want to talk about something called the Reticular Activating System, otherwise known as the RAS. And I have some notes here because I want to make sure that I cover this in as much detail as possible so that you guys really understand just how incredible this part of the brain is and how we can literally reprogram our mind to filter our reality. So when people say to you, like, you create your own reality, right? That used to be a phrase that I would kind of eye roll at because I didn't really understand it. And it wasn't until I started really studying and understanding the brain more, doing postgrad studies in neuroscience through Harvard Extension and a few other like incredible teachers, and really applying the science of the neuroscience of manifestation to my own life, that I realized that this statement is so incredibly true. And it kind of like, it's such a trip that your brain is literally like a program that you get to program, and that your reality, how you see the world, how you see yourself, is completely dependent on what your brain filters based on what you focus on, what it determines to keep you safe, your subconscious thoughts and narratives, and what you consistently repeat. And anyhow, it's just wild. And I'm going to dive into it all today, and I'm going to teach you how to not only understand it, but how to work with it to change your reality, to change your confidence, and to change the way that you live your life and the way that you do your business. Okay, so we're going to dive in today. Now, one thing that I want to share with you that's going to help you understand just how this filter system works is I want you to think about a time in your life where you have like really wanted something, or something has happened to you that's quite significant. So let's say like you've fallen pregnant, or let's say you're going through a divorce, or you're moving country, or like something quite life-changing, something that's quite transformative in your life and that has a strong emotional charge. Or something a little bit more simple, but once again, it still has like a strong emotional charge to it. So for example, you want to buy your first car, or you really want to upgrade your car, or, you are really trying to find like a red dress for this party that you want to go to because you're really fixated on wearing this particular style of dress, right? So anytime these things happen, another example would be angel numbers, right? Let's say you decide that, 333 are your angel numbers because you saw it on something one day, and you've decided like, oh, that must be a sign, that must be my angel numbers, okay? And so that you've decided 333 are my angel numbers, and that has an emotional charge for you because your brain deems it to be important and that it means something. Whenever you see that, it means XYZ. Okay, any of these scenarios, and I'm sure you can think of one. Now, I want you to notice how when you started to focus on it, all of a sudden, I'm sure, you started seeing it everywhere, right? So this happened when I was pregnant, for example. I would never notice pregnant women around me. Like, it wasn't something that I paid attention to. It wasn't something that I really cared about. It wasn't something that I noticed. It wasn't important to me at the time. And then when I fell pregnant, all of a sudden I was like saying to my husband, oh my God, there's so many pregnant women everywhere. Like, I was at the shops and there was like 5 pregnant women there. I feel like everyone is pregnant right now. Isn't that cool? And he was kind of like, yeah, I guess, but those pregnant women were always there. Those pregnant people were probably always there in the same amounts, even if it was different people. It's just that because I was going through something, because it had an emotional charge for me, all of a sudden my brain was like, we're pregnant. This is important to us. We need to notice this as much as we can and actually filter our lives to be able to adjust to this change and this situation that we're in. So all of a sudden it starts only seeing people that are pregnant, right? Same thing of let's say you let's say the car example, right? So all of a sudden you decide that you want to buy, I don't know, a red Toyota. I don't know. You see a particular car that you think, oh, I really like that. You know, it's going to be a great upgrade for our family and blah, 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 blah. And I like the color and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, when you first look it up, you think that you kind of never seen it before. It's really exciting to you and you're really, you know, you're kind of fixated on it. And then you're driving and you stop at the lights and you look around and you're like, hey, there's that car that I want. And then you're like looking over across the highway and there's another. And there's another. And then all of a sudden you're parking at the shops and you spot 3 of them in the parking lot. And once again, you're coming home and you're like, wow, I'm seeing that car everywhere. It's not as rare as I thought it was. Now, those cars were always there. Those people already had those cars. They were already around you. It's just that your brain was only focusing on them because now it is important to you because it is something that you want, something that you desire to have, and it has an emotional charge to it. It has some kind of meaning to it, right? So this is some real life examples of what I mean by the fact that your brain has this filter that selectively chooses what you see in the world and how you relate to yourself. Now, how does this correspond to business? And how does this correspond to like the way that we do business, okay? So firstly, you need to understand that the RAS is a network of neurons in your brainstem. And its job is to filter out about 99% of incoming information so that you consciously notice what your brain deems to be as important, okay? So the research tells us that our brain filters through, or the brain is privy to, 11 million bits of information per second. Okay, think about that. 11 million bits of information per second is coming at me. But my conscious mind can only absorb 40 to 50 bits. Yeah, so 11 million bits versus 40. Huge difference there. So we then have to ask ourselves, well, how does it determine which 40 bits it focuses on? And this is the role of the RAS. The RAS's job is to decide the filter of those 40 bits. Now, the way that it does that predominantly is it decides what is important based on your beliefs, your emotions, and what you repetitively focus on. So in a nutshell, you don't see reality as it is. You see it as you are. Everybody has a very different version of reality because what they are seeing and what they are noticing is dependent on their own unique programming of their reticular activating system. Okay, so this is super, super interesting. Now, the RAS doesn't work in isolation. So I gave some examples before of like consciously, when we're consciously aware of like something that we really, really want, like the car or something that's happening to us in real time, like pregnancy, then those things, because there's an emotional charge, it deems it to be important. Maybe it's like changing our sense of identity in some way. There's like, you know, a lot going on that is like why that is important. Then your RAS starts to kick in and filter your reality. But for the most part, what you're noticing in your life, in your world, about yourself and others in the world at large, it's not even something that you're really consciously aware of because it just feels like, well, this is just my reality. Like, why would I question that, right? Now, the RAS predominantly is trained by your subconscious mind. So the part of your brain that is beneath or outside of your conscious knowing. So when we talk about conscious and subconscious, your subconscious is like, as you move through your day, you're just doing things, right? Like you're not thinking necessarily about why you're choosing to do something or why you're choosing not to do something. You're not questioning every emotion that you have or every thought that goes through your mind. It's just like, this is just the way it is. That is all subconscious, right? So 95%, up to 95% of our actions and behaviors are subconscious. They are just happening because they're just happening automatically without us actually being aware of why. Now, this subconscious programming in our mind determines and is a huge determinant for the filter of your RAS. And what is stored in your subconscious mind are the narratives, the thoughts, the stories, the emotions, the implicit memories, the sense, your self-referential beliefs, so your sense of identity, your self-worth beliefs, your cultural conditioning, your religious conditioning, your biases that you have, whether that be towards gender, whether it be towards business, whether it be towards race, whether it be towards like whatever, religion, whatever. All of these things, everything that you have learned and you've been privy to in your life up until now, so much of that, especially whilst the brain was forming in your formative years, so those the times of your life that you don't even have really a conscious memory of, so much of that is in your subconscious, right? And it's those stories, those subconscious stories, beliefs, nervous system state, and emotions that then determine the filter for how you see your reality. So when we're thinking about business, especially when it comes to like business and confidence, business and self-worth, if I have a subconscious belief that I am not worthy of success, for example, like maybe I have this, this feeling of guilt or this like guilt wound from my childhood, and that kind of translates to this sense of unworthiness, like I am bad, I am wrong, I have this shame story, and therefore why would I be deserving of success, right? If I am bad, if I am wrong, if I am guilty, why would that be something that I could have? Now, if that sits in my subconscious, then what's going to happen in real time is that my brain will filter out my opportunities for success, and or it will sabotage me when success is near. So for example, there might be some low-hanging fruit that is literally right in front of your nose that you are not seeing or not thinking about because your subconscious is filtering your RAS to not see them because you are not worthy of being successful. So why would you see those things? If anything, you're going to see all the reasons that make that belief to be more true, that confirm the belief. So you'll see all the reasons why you're not successful, why you keep failing, why things never work out, right? So this is also happening because your brain not only favors what it deems to be important, but that importance is also based on what it repeats the most. So if you've had a belief since childhood that you are not worthy, then that belief, presumably, if you're now 35, has been repeated millions of times, millions and millions of times. So that is such a strong neural pathway in your brain that feels just like so easy for your brain to access, and therefore it feels so true because your brain is wired for efficiency. The second thing that's really important to remember about the brain is that it's not designed to make you happy, it's not designed to make you successful, it is designed to keep you safe. So if you having this belief that you are not worthy, that you are guilty, which probably led to behaviors such as people pleasing or always, hiding away, keeping small, not using your voice, not sharing your opinion, like whatever the behaviors were as a result, those behaviors would have once upon a time kept you safe. They would have ensured that you weren't privy to chaos or conflict, or you didn't get in trouble or whatever it might be. So your brain not only has repeated that belief millions of times, but it also associates that with your safety. And so therefore it's even more important that the RAS ensures that that is something that it uses as a filter for your reality. Now, this is where you will not see, like I said earlier, the opportunities in front of you. You will not have the confidence to pursue the opportunities in front of you, even if you were to see them. Even if someone was to say to you, hey, here's this person that I met, and like she has a podcast, and the podcast is exactly about what you work on, and here's her number, and here's her email, and she even said she'd be so happy to talk to you. The reason why that piece of paper sits on your desk and you never address it, you never email, you never message, you never follow up, is because your brain is sabotaging, is procrastinating on that task because it doesn't want to execute on it, because it fundamentally goes against what is in your subconscious mind, right? So this is where you must realize that your brain is like one big program. It's like one big algorithm, and your job in life in business, in relationships, if you want to manifest anything, your job is to be able to understand what is sitting in the subconscious and what is actually dictating the filter of your reality if you wish to change your reality, right? So another example would be like, let's see if you have this underlying narrative that like clients are really hard to find, right? Clients are really hard to find. No one ever finds me. Like, it's really, really difficult to get new work. Everyone else finds it so much easier than me. If we have these types of beliefs, even if we're aware of them, but we've been repeating them so much and they lead us to feel like, maybe they contribute to our self-worth story, that like maybe we have imposter syndrome, or maybe we actually are deeply beneath that afraid of being seen or afraid of being seen as an expert, then we have these beliefs that kind of go with that really deep subconscious narrative that sits there. Then of course, your RAS will filter for evidence that proves that story to be true. Or it will actually dictate your actions and how you choose to go about your day so that you do not do anything that helps you to find clients, right? So when you understand this system of your brain and you realize that your reality is not actually fundamentally 100% true, which is a bit of a trip to think about, and that you can actually change it when you change your subconscious, it kind of shifts the entire playing field, because actually there are so many different possibilities that are open and possible at any given time. And this is where we kind of, when you talk about, or when people speak about things like the quantum field and like the field of possibility and how you can collapse time and how you can change all these things about you in your life, that's what they're talking about. They're just talking about that at any given moment there are an infinite amount of ways that you could choose to show up or do something that would directly impact the outcome of your life, the outcome of your day, the outcome of your reality. But it's whether or not you are opening your mind enough to see those things and then to actively pursue them, depending on what's sitting in your subconscious and your sense of self-worth, etc. So if we want to learn how to rewire our subconscious, what can we do, right? Number one, I would say, is getting radically aware about what is there, okay? Like, as a therapist, I can tell you that one of the greatest skills that you can learn if you want to expand your mind and you want to be able to really be more responsive to life rather than reactive to it, is to start to practice the skill of curiosity. What I mean by that is get into the habit of always being curious with yourself, asking yourself why, never taking any thought or any emotion as an absolute fact or reality. If you feel something, if you're hesitating, if you're procrastinating, if you notice that you're sabotaging, if you have a belief pop up in your head, get into the habit of being like, that's interesting. Why am I feeling like that? Why do I have that thought? Is that thought true? Where is this coming from? What does this remind me of, right? Get into the habit of challenging and becoming really aware of what your brain is actually saying and doing, and how your nervous system is actually responding to the world around you. Because ultimately, you are in control of these things if you choose to be. You just have to learn how to see what is there without attaching a narrative or a story to it. So really practicing sitting in the seat of the observer, if you will, practicing that skill of self-observation. You can enhance this skill by doing simple meditation whereby you are focusing on one thing, let's say your breath in and out of your nostrils, and as you do so, watching the thoughts that come into your mind and letting them go, watching them come in and letting them go. Just simply becoming aware of what is there, and to do that without attachment to them. So to be truly mindful, the essence of that word mindful is to be really present with something without judgment to it. So if you can be mindful of your thoughts, if you can start to be this loving witness of your own thoughts and to realize that not everything is true, you start to create this habit of being able to do that when you're not in meditation. So that is step number one, is to become really mindful of the stories, the narratives that are sitting there, and to start to get really curious with yourself and really compassionate towards that curiosity, knowing that not everything that you think is fundamentally true, right? The second thing that you can do is then start to get really clear on what it is that you actually want and why, right? So start to really think about your values. Think about what's in your heart, the impact that you want to have. Think about who you are now as an adult, not who you were as a child. Think about what kind of sense of self-identity you want now. Think about the woman, the person, the man that you want to be and why you want to be that. Think about the life that you will have when you are that version. Think about the steps that that version of you takes in order to create the success that they have, or the income that they have, or the impact that they have, right? And get really, really clear on it and feel it in your body and understand the emotional charge behind it and see it in your mind, and do this as often as you can, as frequently as possible. Just get into the habit of having a really clear image. If you don't have an image, then a really clear feeling of what this version of you looks like, how they live, how they act, how they think, what they do, what kind of decisions they make, how they dress, like all of it. And then what you want to do is to make sure that when your brain is the most susceptible to change, as in when you are the most likely to be able to manipulate and change your neural pathways, is when your brain is in a theta state, right? A theta frequency. And that usually happens when you are just waking up from sleep, when you're just about to go to sleep, or when you're in a deep meditative state. In any of these moments, so maybe when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up, you can start to visualize that vision that you have and actually mentally rehearse the steps that you're going to do that day, or the steps that you're going to do the next day, in order to make your reality happen. This could include telling yourself new beliefs, affirming new beliefs that are in alignment with your new identity, visually seeing like the clients coming in, visually witnessing money coming in, like really feeling into absolutely everything that you want and you desire, coupled with the I am statements, the identity statements that go with it, because we also want to be changing your sense of identity, right? So all of this is so important to do, and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There is so much that you can do in order to shift your reality and in order to manifest your life how you want it to be, and to really do it from the heart, to really do it from a place that feels fulfilling and not ego-based, because that's a whole nother topic in of itself. I hope that you found today really helpful and insightful. If you love this topic, if this really resonates for you, and you know that you are navigating a whole series of like limiting beliefs or subconscious blocks, or you really want to go deep with this, there are a few different options that I can offer you. Firstly, you can do a free future self visualization meditation that I'll link below, and that just helps you to get into the habit of visualizing and seeing the version of you that you want to become. Secondly, if you want to work one-to-one, this is the exact stuff that I work on as a psychologist and as a psychotherapist, as well as a business mentor. So I really help you to understand what's going on in the subconscious and then translating that into action in your day-to-day life, so that you can, quote unquote, collapse time and actually create the business and the life that you want, right? Number 3 is that you can join my manifestation course, which is called Regulate and Receive. It is totally self-paced, but if you loved this episode, think this episode, but an hour episode, 6 different times, with specific integration practices and subconscious rewiring meditations at the end of every one, that is going to help you to manifest from your heart in a way that brings you sustainable success, income, profit, and most importantly, impact and fulfillment. If you want access to that course, I will link it below. You can get started today if you want to. It has changed so many people's lives, and I've had such incredible feedback on it. It is something that I've poured so much of my knowledge into, and I really hope that it helps you. Lastly, if it's like, you know what, I really need the support, I want a combination of both like the neuroscience, the rewiring, but also like I just want the tangible action steps and I want accountability, then the Empowered Practitioner Method is for you. It's our group business program where we cover all of this, but also the strategy, the actual steps, the things that you actually have to do to move the needle once you've kind of reprogrammed and once you're kind of getting used to this new identity that you have. It's a group program, so you're working with other practitioners, other creatives, other service providers, where we're growing together as a community. It is super, super super fun, and there is so much that we get to do in that program. So I'll link all of that below, but I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts on this. And obviously, like, go and research it yourself. It is so fascinating. It's one of my favorite parts of the brain to understand. But yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, and I will connect with you again soon.